Hello and welcome to the Introduction to Direct-to-Garment Printing, the first presentation from the NBM webcast series. I'm Dave Pomeroy, Vice President of Publishing and Markets at National Business Media, and in a moment you'll be hearing from our presenter, Terry Combs. Right now would be a good time for you to check the volume of your computer. If you're having any trouble hearing me, turn up your computer's volume and then the volume control that you see on the bottom right of the screen. That should fix it. If we could, right now, I'd like to take a quick moment to thank our presenting sponsor, which is Equipment Zone. Equipment Zone is the #1 reseller across America of the Epson F2000 direct-to-garment printer. And after you buy from Equipment Zone, they send you a highly trained, experienced technician to each and every customer location to train you on your new printer. This training is absolutely free to you. In the Equipment Zone sales philosophy, if you're properly trained to use the Epson F2000, you'll be successful. Equipment Zone also manufactures the SpeedTreater-TX automatic pre-treat machine. If you want the very same automatic pre-treater that Epson uses in their own facility, you'll want the SpeedTreater-TX in your printer package. So for webcast specials, write this down, call 800-408-0040 or email sales@equipmentzone.com. Okay, so before we get started, some brief instructions. There's a picture of me from the 1970s on there, and that's our presenter, Terry Combs. Very quickly, this webinar is interactive. What that means is you'll be able to submit questions. You can cast your vote in various poll questions that we're going to ask during the presentation. And at the end of the presentation, you can rate your experience here today. So at any time, if you have a question about direct-to-garment printing for Terry Combs, you can click the Ask a Question button on the bottom of your screen, type your question, submit it, and we'll include a Q&A at the end of the session to get to as many of your questions as possible. So please fire away with those questions throughout the presentation. As I said also twice during the presentation, we're going to ask you for some input in the form of a poll question. So when prompted by us, if you could, please click on the vote button on the bottom of your window, and the poll question will be in front of you. You can vote. Finally, we're going to want your feedback at the end. So at the end of the webcast, please click on the Rate This tab and give us your grade. And that really helps us know if we're on the right track with this program. And additionally to that, if you like what you see in here, please share this with friends, and we appreciate that. So with that in mind, let's get to the interactive part of this. Right now, we're going to jump right into our very first poll question. So poll question number 1, are you currently doing direct-to-garment printing? The options are yes, I am. I'm using an Epson F2000. Or yes, using another direct-to-garment printer. Not yet, but you're interested in researching. Or no, but you're curious, and that's why you're here. So we're going to want to get your input from that, and we will launch that poll question for you. As we wait for the votes to come in, I'd like to introduce Tony DiNocenzio from Epson, who's going to have a few quick words to say as we get ready to start today's presentation. Tony, are you here?
I am, Dave. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and I want to thank you for taking the time today, the 1 hour for the educational seminar that Terry's going to provide. As Dave said, my name is Tony DiNocenzio, and I'm the Senior Regional Manager for Epson. I am also responsible for Equipment Zone. All right, I support them, give them the tools that they need, and everything that they really need to support you, which is the most important, the customer, to make sure you have the most and the best experience when you get your Epson F2000 direct-to-garment. Also on the call is a gentleman named Matt Rome from Epson America, and he is our Business Development Manager. What I will say about Matt and Terry is they are probably the two most experienced, both in silkscreen and direct-to-garment, probably in the industry, probably in North America. They have well over 20 years plus experience, both of them in direct-to-garment, putting aside all their screen print knowledge. Matt and I will jump back on the call. We'll unmute with Terry at the end of the presentation if we could address any questions that you may have pertaining to the product and questions that you got. The last thing I just want to say is Equipment Zone was just recently named by Epson America as a premier elite dealer for Epson, for the Epson direct-to-garment printer, which Terry's going to go over today, and for North America. And that's not taken lightly. We don't give these elite awards out and accolades out for just anybody who sells direct to garment or any of our other products that we sell in our line. So it's a very prestigious honor that Epson America has given this to the Equipment Zone. With that, I'll come back on the end with Matt, and I'm going to hand it over to Terry.
Tony, thank you very much, and thanks to you and Matt for everything that you've done here today. So with that, I'm going to get to introducing Terry Combs. Terry is a 35-year veteran of the garment decorating industry. Terry's managed production shops large and small across the United States. He's written hundreds of management and technical articles for trade publications and speaks at industry events worldwide, including the NBM show. Terry is in sales and training with Equipment Zone. And he's based out of Scottsdale, Arizona. So welcome, Terry, and let's jump right in. I want to give you first the results to our first poll question, and then we can go from there. So Terry, are you currently doing direct-to-garment printing? The way things stack up is 48% of our audience today said not yet, but interested in researching. 24% said no, but we're curious. 20% said yes, we are using another direct-to-garment printer, and 8% are using an Epson F2000 right now. So
it's
background.
Interesting results and very similar results, Dave, to what we get when we do the all-day Epson event at all the NBM shows. For anybody who doesn't know, Equipment Zone, Epson, SGIA put on a day-long event before all the NBM shows, and I survey the group before we start, and generally it's the same kind of breakdown. When we initially decided to do this about a year ago, we found that we thought that we would have probably half or more people who already had an Epson F2000, and we're a little surprised that it was there were so many people who weren't quite in the industry yet. So we kind of retooled and did the same with this presentation, where we're going to talk about the basics of the process first for all those folks who are just now looking into the process. So Dave, I'm going to jump right in and start talking about the process. The thing that we want to look at first is the different types of direct-to-garment printers that are available on the market today. And there are two types. One is the type that most of us started with, and direct-to-garment printing has only been around since 2004, so it's a fairly new industry. And back in those days, nearly all the machines were repurposed paper printers, and those type machines are still available today. And by repurposed paper printer, I mean a company will take an Epson or Ricoh or other type of paper printer, take it apart, take the insides out, and build a direct-to-garment printer around them. The issue that you have with this is when print heads are manufactured, the adhesives inside those print heads are made to be resistant to the ink system you use. If you change your ink system, for instance, if you change to a water-based textile ink like we use in direct-to-garment printing, then that print head is actually dying from the minute you put that ink into the system. The second issue that you need to look at is many of the machines on the market today that you might go to a trade show, you might go to an NBM show and see that here is a brand new direct-to-garment printer that I'm going to buy and take home with me. If it is a repurposed paper printer, and translation of that, if somebody says this printer is based on an Epson 1800, this printer is based on an Epson 1900, this printer is based on an Epson 2000, not the F2000 like our printer, but based on a paper printer, then you need to take a look at when was the last time that machine was manufactured. I'll give you an example. An Epson 1800, it's been many years since Epson manufactured that machine, which means by law in the United States, parts are only made for those printers for 7 years. So if you buy a printer that's brand new today and it has an Epson printhead in it that's no longer being manufactured, the clock is ticking on whether or not you'll have a printhead for that machine tomorrow. So keep that in mind, and Epson has no need or desire to make sure they make printheads for those machines, because any of these repurposed paper printers have been manufactured without the permission or consent of Epson. So be sure to find out what paper printer was used to make that printer, and then go online and find out when was the last time that printer was made, because printhead will not be available for those. The other type of printer is a printer that is purpose-built for direct-to-garment printing, like the Epson F2000. Epson manufactures the printhead, Epson manufactures the ink, and Epson manufactures the printer with the purpose of matching the systems together. That's why you can use an Epson F2000. You can turn it off. You can print with it all week long, turn it off, go on a 2-week vacation, come back, turn it back on, and start printing again. The reason you can do that is because the ink, the printhead, the whole system is made to match together. If you're using a repurposed paper printer, and you probably heard the horror stories online about people having clogging issues. I went away for Labor Day weekend, and I came back and my printhead was clogged. Well, that's because those printers and ink systems are not made to go together. That's why companies that sell you printers like that will say you have to leave it running 24 hours a day. If you leave it for more than 3 days, you must flush the ink. So be aware. There are two types: repurposed paper printers, or printers like the Epson F2000 that are purpose-built to match the printhead, the ink, and the entire system together. So let's talk about step-by-step through the process. I'm sure that many of our listeners are already in the garment decorating, so you know that when your customer provides you with art, it's always perfect. And I can't hear you, but I know you're groaning out there, because we know it's not. The thing that you're going to trip over with any direct-to-garment printing, or any screen printing, or any embroidery, or any type of decoration, is getting the proper artwork. There are lots of opportunities out there for you. If you're not a graphic designer, you don't have to be. You could purchase clip art. You can, and by the way, if you're coming to a trade show and you're going to come to our all-day seminar, go into the trade show and buy your clip art there. There's always deals to be made. There are lots of graphic designers today, especially with the internet, who will do artwork for you very inexpensively. I spoke to a graphic designer in Tucson, Arizona. Dave mentioned I live in Scottsdale, and he has met face-to-face maybe 20% of his customers. He has customers all over the country, because today you don't have to be in the same room to get good artwork. So the bottom line is this: once I get my artwork just the way I want it to appear on my shirt, then I'm going to import that file into a RIP or print driver. Now, all direct-to-garment printers come with some type of a RIP or print driver, and what that means is it's a piece of software that will communicate from your art program to your printer and tell your printer what to do. With the Epson F2000, that software is called Garment Creator. Now, you can go right now to the Epson website and download that software. It's an absolutely free download, which means that you can have it on every computer in your office. Everybody can be creating artwork and preparing it to print. So you're going to be using your RIP software to communicate with that printer. Let's say I'm printing a light shirt. I'm printing a white or possibly a pastel shirt. Now, we have to be careful when we talk about pastel, because all direct-to-garment printers are CMYK printers: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. That means those colors can be combined to make 16 million other colors. If you have a magazine sitting on your coffee table right now, that magazine was printed CMYK: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Those inks are transparent, which means that if I'm printing a blue ball, cyan, on a yellow shirt, that blue ball is going to be green, because it'll take on the color of what it's printed on. It's transparent ink. So if a color shift doesn't matter to you, you're perfectly fine to print on pastels, certainly to print on white garments. In this scenario, what you're going to do is you're going to import the file into Garment Creator. What you're going to see on the screen is going to be a rectangle. That rectangle is going to be the shirt platen you're printing on. At that point, you'll position the artwork, you'll hit the print button, and you're ready to go. That shirt will start to print. Now, printing on dark garments, there's a little more complication to it. All my screen printer friends out there know this, that it's much easier to print a white shirt than it is to print a black shirt, and that's true really of all decoration methods. On a dark shirt, in the RIP software, or in this case in Garment Creator print driver, I'm going to select an option to create a white underbase. And by creating that white underbase, the printer knows now I'm going to print white first, and then I'm going to print color on top. And I'll have a few options there. I can have a light underbase, a medium, a heavy. I can also go in there and adjust the amount of underbase. And once you do that, once you save that file, then it will print exactly the same way every time you go to print. Now there's an additional step also in the fact that whenever we print with white ink, we must pre-treat the shirt first. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about different ways to pre-treat shirts, but the key here is we must have pre-treat on the shirt first. Again, I'll refer back to my friends who are screen printers who are out there listening right now. This is the same as flash curing. So when I'm printing a black shirt in screen printing, I'm going to print white first. I'm going to move the screen over, or I'm sorry, I'm going to move the platen over. I'm going to put it under my flash unit to gel the ink. I'm going to come back and I'm going to print the colors on top. The same concept. What happens with direct-to-garment printing is when the white ink touches that pre-treat on the shirt, it's going to start to cure. And that's how we can get a white water-based ink to sit up on top of the shirt. If you weren't pre-treating the shirt first, you printed that on a black shirt or a navy shirt or a dark shirt, that ink would literally disappear into the fabric within a matter of minutes. Curing. Just like any other decoration method, you need to properly cure your shirts after you print them. Now, with direct-to-garment printing, it's a water-based ink, so eventually it would air dry on the shirt. But for washability, just like in screen printing, I need to set that ink on the shirt. Now, different types of direct-to-garment printers and different ink systems are going to have different times for curing the ink. I'm going to reference equipment. I'm going to reference the Epson F2000 because that's going to be an average in the industry. So what I'm going to do on a light shirt, I'm going to use light pressure, and this is very, very important. Use light pressure, and I'm going to cure at 330 degrees, and I'm going to cure that shirt for 45 seconds. A dark shirt, a shirt with a white underbase, I'm going to heat set, again, light pressure, and I can't emphasize enough, must be as light pressure as possible and still touch the shirt. I'm going to set it at 330 degrees, and I'm going to heat set it for 90 seconds. The rule of thumb is this, and this comes straight from Epson. For every layer of ink, we're going to cure for 45 seconds. Now, some ink systems will cure a little faster than this. Some ink systems, you might double the time. You'll have to speak to the folks that you bought your machine from or buying your ink from to find out exactly the curing time. Now, when we pre-treat the shirt, we can actually let that air dry if we choose to, but if we're going straight to print, we're going to heat set it at 330 degrees, but we're going to use heavy pressure. The reason we use heavy pressure is to lay the fibers of the shirt down. It makes for a better presentation when we deliver it to our customers. So be aware, though, the light pressure is really important. When people bring shirts in, a lot of folks will bring shirts into our classes or to a trade show booth and say, hey, what have I done wrong here? And if the print looks really dull, our first question is this: how did the print look when it came off the printer? Oh, it was really, really bright. Guarantee you 99% of the time, too much pressure is pushing the white ink and the color ink together and causing you to have that dull ink look on your shirt. So what can I print? 100% ring spun cotton is your best friend when it comes to direct-to-garment printing. And here's a little interesting side note. You hear a lot of folks in the industry talk about direct-to-garment. It must be ring spun, must be ring spun, must be ring spun. The truth of that is the reason that we use ring spun is because when ring spun cotton is manufactured, the manufacturers use thinner thread to do ring spun, which means it gives us a nice flat surface. So in fact, it's the thin threads that give us the surface we want to print on, rather than, you know, the fact that it's a ring spun cotton. All shirts are not created equal. Now, if I'm a screen printer, if I'm doing transfers, if I'm doing a lot of other different types of decoration methods, if I'm maybe embroidering, I can use just about any shirt I want to use. With direct-to-garment printing, since it's a water-based ink and it's attaching itself to the fabric, the shirt will make a difference in what that print looks like in the end. So what I need is a really tight weave. I need a really smooth surface. Now, here's an opportunity that you might want to take a screenshot of this. If you don't know how to do that, you can also call or email Equipment Zone, and we're happy to provide you with this list. These are shirts that we've tested in our facility and gotten excellent results with. Now, are there other shirts available right now today that will give you a great result? Absolutely, I'm sure of that. There are some shirts, though, that will give you a result that's not quite acceptable. Even among these shirts, you could, in fact, print the exact same image with the exact same settings on every one of these shirts, and you might get slightly different results from shirt to shirt. Now, they're probably all going to be acceptable results from shirt to shirt here, but it's important to do testing. Now, here's one of the great things about direct-to-garment printing. This industry is growing so fast that more and more garment manufacturers are coming up with shirts that are specifically made for direct-to-garment. And what does that mean? Smooth surface, really tight weave. So again, if you don't know how to get a screenshot of this, you can get a hold of us at Equipment Zone, and we're happy to email you this information. So can I print on a cotton poly blend? You can print on a cotton poly blend. Now, for instance, a sweatshirt, it's very difficult to find a 100% cotton sweatshirt that comes in any variety of styles and colors. But it's pretty easy to find a 90-10, 90% cotton, 10% poly, an 80-20, 80% cotton, 20% poly. You'll get excellent results with that. You'll get a perfect print. Now, if you go down to a 50-50, especially in fleece, the print quality is not going to be as great because it's a water-based ink, and the water-based ink does not want to adhere to the polyester threads in the fabric. So the print will look a little bit dull. So for T-shirts, you could probably get an acceptable print with a 50-50. With a sweatshirt, you really need to stay up towards the 80-20 range. So what can I not print? You cannot print a phone case. And the reason I say that is because I'm asked that question just about every day. You know, there was a time when I started screen printing, and I appreciate Tony saying 20 years or so, because I actually started screen printing in 1979. When I started printing, you were a screen printer, or you were an embroiderer, or you did transfers, or. Today, we all do lots of different things. It's very unusual to find a decorator who isn't doing possibly sublimation or also screen printing or also embroidery. So it's important to know that, could I make this printer print a phone case? I probably could. I could probably put some, paint some pre-treat on there, print it, dry it with a hair dryer, clear coat it with acrylic spray. So yes, could I make it work? Absolutely. But should I? Absolutely not, because there are other decoration methods that are better to do this. Hey, if you want to print phone cases, also buy a sublimation printer. That's the way most phone cases are printed. So understand that all the different decoration methods have their own niche in the marketplace. And to try to force one to do something it's not meant to do is not really a great idea profit-wise. And I think we're all doing this so that we can make some money doing it. What can I not print? New performance wear and 100% polyester. Now, I'm going to immediately say to you, this isn't entirely true. The ink systems are made specifically for 100% cotton or high cotton poly blends. That said, for the last 2 years, by using a polyester pre-treat, any and all of us could print a white 100% polyester shirt. It looks like a sublimation on the shirt. It's a very nice print, washes beautifully. If you come by the Equipment Zone booth at any of the NBM shows, and for the last 2 or 3 NBM shows, we have on display a a black shirt with a beautiful full color print, and across the top is printed 100% polyester. And that shirt's actually been laundered 4 or 5 times. It washed beautifully. It looks great. Was it easy to do? It wasn't. Let me tell you the process very quickly. We did a light pre-treat, dried it. We did a light pre-treat, dried it. We printed it like a 100% cotton t-shirt. We heat set it at, instead of 330 degrees, we heat set it at 265 degrees for 45 seconds. We cooled it. We repeated that. We cooled it. We repeated that. It was a 5-step process. So is anybody wanting to do that out there and sell that to a customer? Probably not. But what it does say to us is we're around the corner from making this work. I spoke with one of the ink manufacturers in the industry about a month ago, and he said he feels that within 12 to 24 months, all of us are going to look back and say, hey, remember when we couldn't print polyester? And here's the nice thing to know about this. Everyone that I speak to in the industry says it's not going to be a different machine. It's not going to be a different ink system. It's all going to be about the pre-treating. So I'm not going to recommend to anybody to go out and buy any direct-to-garment printer today based on the fact that, hey, I want to print polyester, but it is around the corner. So if that is your marketplace, you can relax and know that it's about to happen. So let's compare direct-to-garment machines and look under the hood at these printers. The one thing that you need to understand is they're all inkjet printers. They're all water-based ink systems, and yes, there's different chemistries among all the different systems, but very similar chemistry, so be aware of that. So if you're out there shopping for a direct-to-garment printer, make sure that you question any fact that sounds too good to be true. And, you know, when you go to, again, I'll refer to the NBM show, when you go there, 99.9% of the folks that you talk to are telling you information based on what they believe to be fact. I was at a trade show, not an NBM, Dave, where I was standing in the aisle, and I just happened to stop and talk to a friend, and I was standing in front of a booth that was selling direct-to-garment printers. And over my shoulder, I heard the customer say, so if the print head goes out, what's it going to cost me to replace it? And the sales rep, straight-faced, said to that customer, well, I don't know what a print head would cost because we've never had a print head go out on any machine we've ever sold. Well, anybody who's been in business for any amount of time and run any kind of equipment knows that at some point in time that print head's going to go out. You know, maybe if it's a repurposed paper printer, it might only last 3 or 4 months. With a printer like the Epson F2000, you might go 3 or 4 years. But at some point in time, that print head is going to need to be replaced. So if somebody says that to you, either they have no idea about the process or they're misleading you about the process. I had someone else come up to me at a show and say, hey, Terry, why do you need to have a heat press? Why do you need to cure the shirts on your printer when that printer right over there, XYZ company, they say I don't need to cure the shirt? Well, in fact, that is absolutely true. You do not need to cure that shirt. But if you ever want to wash it, you have to cure the shirt. So they weren't telling them a falsehood. You don't have to have a heat press. You don't have to have a conveyor dryer. But if you ever want to wash that shirt, which means beyond that first time you wear it, once it takes a week or two to air dry, but be cautious of those kinds of statements. Something that a lot of folks don't realize as well is what you can do on one direct-to-garment printer, you can do on all direct-to-garment printers. If one company says, well, you know, you can apply foil with our direct-to-garment printer right onto the ink in the garment, guess what? You can apply foil on every direct-to-garment printer on the market as long as it has white ink capability. What you can't do on one direct-to-garment printer, you can't do on any. And again, that goes back to the fact it's an inkjet printer and similar water-based ink technologies. So what is the ink cost per liter? Now, I don't want you to go out and say, I'm going to talk to everybody that makes direct-to-garment printers and everybody that manufactures ink, and I'm going to say, I'm going to buy the machine that has the cheapest ink because there are many, many other factors. But it's a good thing to know what the ink cost is per liter. Now, the Epson printer has 600 milliliter cartridges. That means you take the cost of the cartridge, divide it by 600, that's going to give me my milliliter cost, times 1,000. There are 1,000 milliliters in a liter cartridge, or in a liter. Every machine has a different size cartridge. There are 180 milliliter, there are 400 milliliter, there are 250 milliliter. So you take that cost of that cartridge, divide it by the number of milliliters, and then multiply that by 1,000. That's going to give you your liter cost. And this is just for a reference for you to take a look at one machine to the next, because if one machine has double the ink cost than the next machine, then your ink cost per garment will be double. Now, it might still be a reasonable price for you to sell at, but it's something for you to be aware of. Now, if you go to a booth or call an equipment manufacturer or reseller on the phone and ask for the price per liter, And they say, well, I can't tell you that because we don't use milliliters. Our cartridges are cc's. Well, let me let you in a little secret. A cc is a milliliter. There are 1,000 milliliters in a liter. There are 1,000 cc's in a liter. If someone says that to you, there's probably a reason they don't want you to know what the liter cost is on the ink. So be aware of that as well. So what type of training will you provide? There are some folks in the industry who will say to you, I'm going to buy a machine, and listen, all you need to do is plug it in. It's like your desktop printer. You didn't have anybody come out and train your desktop printer, right? Well, that's not really true. There is a definite learning curve in direct-to-garment printing, just like any other professional decorating. Other folks will say to you, we'll train you over the phone, over Skype. Third option, you can come to our facility for training. Option number 4 is we will come to you, but we'll charge you for that service. Or option number 5, we'll come to your facility and we'll train you for free. I will tell you this, at Equipment Zone, we are one of those companies that will come to your location and train you on the machine, and it's absolutely free to you. And we do that for one reason. We feel that if you are trained properly on the machine, you're going to be successful with that printer. So that's our business philosophy. How will I get service for my printer? This is a very important question. Now, when you talk to a supplier and they say it doesn't matter because you'll never need service, this is very similar to before. Turn and walk away, because I don't know, I can go out and buy a Maserati and spend a lot of money on that car. I'm still going to need service at some point in time. So it doesn't matter what machine you buy. At some point in time, you will likely need service on that machine. Your options out in the industry are going to be this. We will send you a part and we'll get on the phone and tell you how to replace it. More common, you'll need to send the machine back to us and we will work on the machine and we'll ship it back to you. Usually that shipping back and forth is at your expense, but even if it's not, think about the amount of time that you are not producing on that machine. Shipping to the manufacturer, however long it takes them to work on that machine, shipping back to you, a lot of downtime. So some companies, like Epson, do have service technicians. In the Epson warranty, it states that if you need service on your machine, Epson will have a technician to you within 48 hours. Our experience with most of our customers has been 24 hours. So what kind of support will I get? And this is something I like to do at trade shows. I'll say, if somebody says, hey, I'm looking at this machine, well, why don't you go over there right now and say, hey, listen, can you give me the support phone number? I want to call them right now and see who answers the phone. And it's surprising how many times the person standing there goes, well, no one's going to answer because I'm right here. I am support. So keep that in mind. And I think that's a pretty good tactic when you're shopping for machines, when you're walking around trade shows. Ask everybody, hey, what's the support number? I want to call it right now and see who answers the phone and see if they can help me. What does your warranty cover and what does it not cover? That's the most important part. What does it not cover? And ask this question. It's important because, again, you're going to need parts. You're going to need service. You're going to need support. Many machines on the market have no warranty on their print head, 0 warranty. Others have a 90-day warranty. Still others will say, we have a year warranty on the print head, but if you read the fine print, and this is all published on the manufacturer's website, so go in and read those warranties. After 90 days, you'll have to pay for the technician to come to our location and do the service on the machine, or a bumper-to-bumper warranty where everything on the machine is covered. I will tell you additionally that with Epson, it is bumper-to-bumper, and you can renew the warranty an additional year and then an additional year after that. The only warranty that I'm aware of in the industry that is renewable. Can you provide references? Now, I'll just be honest with you. If you ask me personally for references or anybody at Equipment Zone, or I would hope at any company that you talk to, they are going to give you names and phone numbers and email addresses for their absolute best customers. Now, should you still call them? You absolutely should, because those are the people you're going to say to, listen, have you ever called for support? How quick did they get back to you? Have you ever called for service? Who are your customers? What are your prices? Those kind of things you can ask as well. If someone says to you, we don't give out the names of our customers, there's a reason they don't want you to talk to their customers that have the machine. So bear that in mind as well. At a trade show, will you print a file for me? Most everybody in the industry will, in fact, print your file. But let me give you a heads up. If you show up with a file that's 72 DPI and it's 1 inch by 1 inch, and you hand that file to one of our techs, they're going to say to you, hey, listen, I could print this file for you and send it to you, or if you could send me a higher quality file, but I'm not going to be able to print this low resolution file here in the booth. Now, you might say, well, listen, I know the print won't look great. Well, here's the problem. You know that, I know that, but the 14 people who walk by while it's printing are going to say, wow, that printer doesn't print very well. So if you want to have a file printed at a trade show, bring a good quality file for us to print. So what else do I need to buy? First of all, you need a computer, obviously. Every direct-to-garment printer on the market in America and around the world is PC compatible, every single one of them. I'm going to guess there are a few Mac users listening out there right now, since most graphic designers are Mac users and graphic designers love to do direct-to-garment printing. Here's a little surprise for you maybe. The Epson F2000 is the only direct-to-garment printer that is both Windows and Mac compatible. You could send files from your PC, and across the hall somebody could have been sending files from their Mac without any issue at all. Now, if anyone else tells you that their machine is Mac compatible, make sure you say, wait, does this mean I have to download a bunch of things that make it suddenly a Windows computer? Because all the Mac users that I know are not really interested in converting their Mac over to be a Windows printer. So as of today, the Epson F2000 is the only direct-to-garment printer that is both Windows and Mac compatible, and you don't have to buy a special printer for one or the other. You can print from both platforms to the same printer. A heat press. You need a heat press. I'm going to get on my soapbox here for just a second. With the heat press, what you need is a good quality American-made heat press. And now there are some international-made heat presses that are good quality, but what I want you to do is make sure that you don't buy a cheap import, a heat press that you spent $350 on, because most of those heat presses end up in the dumpster by the end of the year. And what's worse is if you have a poor quality heat press, you're going to get a poor quality cure. And a year from now, you're going to say, you know, the market's not great for direct-to-garment printing because I'll sell a shirt and the customers never come back. Well, it's probably not because of the market. It's probably because that shirt washed out. So you need a good quality heat press. You're looking at in the neighborhood of $1,400 for a really good heat press. It's an investment that you need to make. Now, here's the plus. 15 years from now, you'll be using that same heat press. Heat presses usually last the life of your business, so you need to make that investment. You need some method to pre-treat shirts, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Auxiliary supplies like papers. Can I use the Teflon sheets that I got with my direct-to-garment printer? Ideally not, and here's why. Direct-to-garment printing is a water-based ink system. How do you cure water-based ink? You evaporate the ink. The Teflon sheets are going to hold that water in. So either it's going to extend my curing time, or I'm not going to get a good cure and I'm going to have washability issues. What you need to buy are silicone-coated parchment sheets. You'll use those sheets when you're drying pre-treat. You use those sheets when you are curing the ink. All they do is protect the back of your heat press from getting a buildup of inks or pre-treat solution. And speaking of pre-treat solutions, there are third-party pre-treatments available for printing on polyesters and those types of things. Third-party RIP software. Do I need to buy upgrade RIP software? Basically what you get with an upgrade RIP software, and we at Equipment Zone sell the Digital Factory from CADLink, what you're going to get is the ability to knock out the white underbase under black ink, the ability to really tweak your underbase. What we recommend is this. Start with the software that came with your printer, and with us it's going to be Garment Creator. Use it for about 30 days. And then if you feel like you need something a little bit more, then try the free 30-day Digital Factory download. And our techs can certainly help walk you through that as well. But don't jump right into buying that software. So what do we need artwork-wise? We need a 250 to 300 DPI file saved at full size. Save it as a PNG, an EPS, a JPEG. Most any of those types of formats are going to work for you. White ink. What's the truth about white ink? Anybody who's not in the business yet knows that I go to T-shirt forum and I read horror stories about white ink. Well, yes, 2006 when white ink was introduced, we did have issues. Today's Thursday. We'd print today. Tomorrow on Friday we'd come in and the ink was completely separated. It's water on top and solids on bottom. That caused clogging. But today the inks are so well suspended that it really isn't an issue any longer. So bear in mind that if you're having clogging issues today, it's probably because of lack of use of the printer. More likely it's because of lack of proper maintenance on the machine. So keep that in mind as well. Dave, I know you have another poll question coming up here. Are you ready to poll the audience?
Yes, I am, Terry. Yep, time for poll question number 2. So you mentioned pre-treat a little bit ago, and that's what we want to talk about now. We want to ask the audience, what pre-treat method do you currently use? Are you using an automatic pre-treat machine, a power paint sprayer, a paint roller, some other method, or are you not currently doing DTG printing at all, and this doesn't apply? Let us know. Automatic, sprayer, roller, other, or not doing it, and we'll tally those results as we can. And as a reminder as well, audience, getting some great questions. Keep those coming in. We're going to get to as many of those as we can at the end of the presentation.
You know, Dave, it's interesting when we talk about pre-treating is, you know, as I mentioned, a lot of times people will bring a shirt into a trade show or they'll bring it to a class and say, hey, what am I doing wrong here? And it's so interesting that probably 90% of the time we can trace the issue back to properly pre-treating the shirt. So it's a critical part of the process that I think a lot of people don't realize how important it really is. So it's I'm going to be talking about my list of best to worst, and so I don't know if it's everybody's list, but I feel pretty good about it.
I think you're going to be pretty happy with the results. They're still coming in here, but it's going to line up pretty well. I'm going to give just a little bit more time for the results to keep coming in, and we'll take a look at that.
You know, Dave, also a lot of the pre-treat methods that we're going to be talking about, as I said, white ink printing's only been around for, what is it now, 11 years, which means we've tried a lot of different things to properly pre-treat shirts. And some of those things are still floating around out there as recommended, so and shouldn't necessarily be recommended.
Okay. Very good. Well, Terry, I'll give you the results here. So 70% of our audience is actually not yet doing DTG printing, but of the ones that are, or of that 100% that are here today, 20% are using automatic and 8% using a power paint sprayer. Either you're lying or no one's brave enough to tell us that you're doing a paint roller, and no one's
They must have been to one of my seminars, read one of my articles, because they obviously know how I feel about paint rollers. So let's jump in, Dave, and talk about pre-treating. And the rule of thumb, as I mentioned early on, was if you're printing with white ink, you need to pre-treat the shirts. Now, you can pre-treat the shirts if you're doing light shirt printing as well. Some people do that. You are going to get a little brighter image by pre-treating a white shirt or a light shirt, even if you're not using white ink. You also will get a little better washability. Now, I will argue with our techs because, of course, our techs want the print to be as perfect as possible. I'm a production guy. Depending on your marketplace, I'm not going to pre-treat a white shirt because I can. Here's my example. You can give me a picture of your kids under the Christmas tree, and I'm going to print it, and Grandma's going to have a little tear in her eye looking at that shirt, and she's going to say, that looks fabulous. I could pre-treat a shirt and print it and put it next to it, and she's going to say, well, that looks even a little better. Well, you had me at fabulous. So it's really a matter of personal preference and a matter of who your marketplace is about pre-treating. So let's go down my list, best to worst. Automatic pre-treat machine, obviously, every shirt is going to be pre-treated exactly the same way. You're going to have the exact same coating of pre-treat. An automatic pre-treat machine, by the way, and what we have pictured here is a SpeedTreater-TX. We actually manufacture that machine in our facility in New Jersey, and that is the pre-treat machine that Epson uses in their own facility to do all their sample work. So if you got a sample from Epson, it went through the SpeedTreater-TX. You'll notice that that machine is fully enclosed, which means I can use it in the same room with my printer. It's very important if you have a pre-treat machine, even if it's an automatic, that it's open on one end or both end or any openings at all. You cannot pre-treat shirts in the same room with your printer. Remember what I told you about what happens with pre-treat. When white ink touches pre-treat, it starts to cure. If there's pre-treat floating in the air because your pre-treat machine is not enclosed, it can actually touch it float in the air, get on your print head, and cure the ink in your print head. So very important if you use a pre-treat machine in your facility next to your printer that it be fully enclosed. But maybe that's not in your budget, paying for an automatic pre-treat machine. So your next best bet is a handheld Wagner power sprayer. Is it the most efficient way? It's not. Can I get a good pre-treat? I absolutely can. It takes a little bit of practice. It's kind of messy. You're going to want to do it in a garage or somewhere away from your printer. You cannot pre-treat a shirt with an open sprayer like that in the same room with your printer. Third option, pre-treated shirts. Now these have come and gone over the years. Basically the shirt is fully coated with pre-treat. Now currently there is a new shirt on the market that we've tested and had some good results with. The limitations, of course, is right now those shirts are only available in white and black. I know that they're planning to have other colors, but here's the scenario. You're always going to pre-treat shirts. And why is that? The minute you decide, I'm only going to offer the 12 colors that come in pre-treated shirts, the minute you decide that, the next customer to walk into your shop is going to say, I need Tennessee orange. Well, there's not a chance that you're going to find that shirt already pre-treated. So you're always going to be pre-treating shirts, even if you opt to buy the shirts that already have pre-treat solution on them. Another another pre-treat method that is floating around out there is pre-treated solution papers. And of course, the benefit to this is you don't have to have a machine, you don't have to have spray. You lay the shirt on, you cold press it by putting a cover on your heat press, you take that cover off, you hot press it, you peel the paper away. The drawback to that is the pre-treat paper will lay down the same amount of pre-treat no matter what shirt I'm going on. If I'm going on a light ladies top, I'm going to use less pre-treat. If I'm going on a sweatshirt, I'm going to use more pre-treat. I have no control over that with the paper. The other drawback, of course, is if I'm spraying pre-treat on a shirt, my cost is about 25 cents per garment. Pre-treat paper is $1.20 to $1.80 per shirt. So again, this is one of those situations where there was a lot of experimentation going on in different types of pre-treating. Again, that's where the paint roller came from as well. Paint rollers, unfortunately, we call this the Hobby Lobby method of pre-treating, lays down far too much pre-treat on the shirt. So this is not a professional method for pre-treating shirts. And if you're using a paint roller, you need to opt out of that and either get an automatic pre-treat machine or a handheld paint sprayer. And a hand pump spray bottle is the same scenario. Now, I'll use a hand pump spray bottle to pre-treat the front of a hat because it's just a small area. But to do a whole shirt, very, very difficult to get an even lay down of pre-treat on the shirt. So curing, most people are going to use a heat press. Why is that? Because I can put it right next to my printer. Can I use my conveyor dryer? You absolutely can. Screen printers print with water-based inks all the time and use a conveyor dryer. Airflow is a real plus when it comes to curing direct-to-garment shirts, just like it is with screen printing with the water-based ink. Now, herein lies the rub, as they say. You don't want your machine out on the production floor because of the fluctuations in temperature, because of the fluctuations in the humidity, the entire environment. So I will tell you this, that large decorators, folks that have 100, 200, 250 direct-to-garment printers, they will use conveyor dryers, but they're very much environmentally controlled in an office setting. So will they work? Absolutely. If you have a production shop where you have a warehouse that's 60 degrees in the morning and it's 98 degrees when everybody goes home, then you're going to want to keep your direct-to-garment printer in an office setting and not out there on the production floor. So let's talk about that a little bit. Temperature. Your printer is pretty sensitive. You need to have average office temperature, which means that if you're comfortable in the room, then the printer is going to be comfortable in the room as well. Here's something that's critically important, and this is true of all direct-to-garment printers, you need to maintain a humidity level of 50% or higher. Now, Epson says 40%. I like to lean a little heavier to make sure that humidity level is really taking good care of your machine. Think about this. If the air is too dry, and I'm coming to you from Scottsdale, Arizona, where average humidity is 8%, if the air is too dry, the air is trying to pull water from wherever it can get it. Well, where's it going to get it when you have an inkjet printer sitting there? It's going to get it from your water-based ink. So maintaining humidity is very, very important. And here's another fact that people don't realize. Somebody might say to me, well, you know what? My humidity in my shop is 20, 25%, but I don't have any head clogging, so it's all good. It's not all good, because here's what happens. An inkjet head will start to overheat if the humidity level's too low. And how does an inkjet head cool itself? It forces water through the print head. Where does it get the water? It gets it from your water-based ink. So if your printer is going through 5, 6, 8 automatic head cleanings a day, it's not because the machine's dirty. It's not because the machine is malfunctioning. It's because your humidity level is too low. And most people are not aware of that. So make sure that you maintain that humidity level. And here's how you do that. Buy a hygrometer. Hygrometer will tell you humidity level. I bought mine at Amazon for $8.95. It not only tells me the humidity level, but it will also tell me my average for the last 24 hours. If your humidity drops, let's say you're in Minnesota right now, and hey, it's summertime, humidity's high, but in the winter, when the heat kicks on, humidity level's going to drop. So you have to maintain that level. You will probably buy a humidifier for your shop. If you need a recommendation, email sales@equipmentzone.com, and we'll send you links for that. Let's talk real quick about maintenance. Most direct-to-garment printers, most inkjet printers have a little wiper blade that wipes the print head. It's like a little windshield wiper. You have to clean that periodically all through the day. With the Epson, it has a clean cloth that wipes the print head. That clean white cloth will roll in advance and wipe that print head after every single print. What it will do after 1,500 prints, the machine will tell you need to replace that device, but it keeps the print head perfectly clean at all times. The other thing you'll do is a tube wash kit. Now, years ago, you used to have to flush white ink out of your Epson F2000 printer. No longer required. That's been gone for nearly a year. All you'll do at the end of each day is put this tube wash solution in your capping station, and the printer will prompt you to do that. You'll put that in there, and that will keep the machine clean. If you're running 24 hours a day, like some of our customers do, every 20 hours, it will tell you that you need to do that. So we have time for some questions. Let me quickly go through some closing thoughts. Good artwork is the key to your success, absolutely. Pre-treating is necessary, and doing it right makes all the difference in your shop. Proper curing assures a long-lasting finished product. A direct-to-garment printed shirt should last as long as a screen print. Some 100% cotton garments print better than others do. And great strides will be made in polyester printing. We're probably a year away. Maintain a controlled working environment, critically important for all direct-to-garment printers. And service and support. That's what separates the best manufacturers, the best resellers from the rest of the folks out there selling the product. Dave, you have a few words you want to say about our friends at Epson?
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to get into Q&A in just a minute, Terry. Thank you, by the way, for an excellent presentation. But yes, first we have to thank our sponsor, Epson. From day one, Epson designed the SureColor F2000 series to be purpose-built direct-to-garment printers. In every aspect, the printer mechanism and printhead to the ink chemistry and ink delivery systems, Epson developed the technology to work seamlessly together. The result is quite possibly the most advanced garment imaging system ever offered. Finally, a true direct-to-garment imaging technology designed for serious, reliable production from the company you can trust, Epson. So thank you, Epson. We've got a bunch of good questions in. We've got a little bit of time to get there. So again, for any questions that we don't get, feel free to keep firing them at us now. But if we don't get to them, Terry and Matthew Rome from Epson will get to these offline after the presentation. But we have a time for a few here. So Terry, if I can fire a few at these at you, and you can take a stab at them.
Let's do it.
Okay. Start with a good general question. We've had this coming from a few people. What would be the benefit of adding D2G to a screen print operation?
Oh, absolutely. Here's the thing and I'm a longtime screen printer. The market has changed. Someone's going to walk into your shop, and every screen printer out there has had this happen already. I've got a stock car that I race at the local racetrack. I want that car with all the stickers and everything on it on a black T-shirt. I want it for my crew. There's 5 of us. It's me, it's my brother-in-law, it's my 3 kids. And a screen printer is going to say, that's a 6-color print. I can't do 5 shirts. Why can't you do 5 shirts? Zazzle will do 5 shirts. Cafe Press will do 5 shirts. The market has changed. Amazon has changed the marketplace. I want it now. I want it customized. I want a low quantity. And we all have to understand that this is the future of garment decorating. Screen printing is not going anywhere, but you have to be able to do some type of printing like this as well.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks, Terry. A couple questions about pre-treatment. This user says, I've been pre-treating white T-shirts and have had lots of complaints about the color of the ink washing out in one wash. So would it be better to just not pre-treat white or light shirts?
Well, that's a quick and easy solution, but as a Band-Aid, but because that will make it so that you won't have that issue. But I'm going to give you a 99% bet that if it's washing out, you're using too much pre-treat, and that's just a fact.
Okay. Okay. Possibly similar problem here. How can you prevent staining from the pre-treatment itself? I've had issues.
Very good question. A lot of the third-party pre-treats will cause staining. That's why they have a dark version and a light version of their pre-treat. Usually when someone is having that issue, we will say, make sure that you switch to the Epson pre-treat and you will no longer have staining issue. And that's been our experience, that people do not have staining with the Epson pre-treat.
Okay. Okay. This user says, I know it's only a matter of time, but it would be great is capitalized, great, if a manufacturer could use the print file to create the area of spray on the shirts that match the artwork area. Well, obviously larger for any shifting. Anything like this on the horizon, Terry?
Well, yes and no. There is a machine that does that. It's about $8,000. There was a time where we really needed it because you would see that box around the shirt. You'd see that what people would call the DTG box because of the amount of pre-treat that you had to lay down, and it would just be stiff around the shirt. So folks were trying to make that machine that would just pre-treat the area where you're printing. And there is a machine on the market that does that. Unfortunately, it hit the market after developments and pre-treats made it so it wasn't necessary anymore. So if you're having an issue where you're seeing that box, you're using too much pre-treat. And don't feel like you're alone in this, because my experience is this: about 90% of decorators out there use far too much pre-treat. I think it sets the old solution of, well, gosh, if this much works, if this amount of pre-treat works twice as much, it's got to work twice as better, right? So that's not the case. Back off on your pre-treat and do some experiment and do some test printing.
Okay, fair enough. Terry, I think we have time for one more question. Okay. This is a good general question to address. And I assume this is referring to the amount of time. What's the average learning curve for a D2G printer?
That's actually an excellent question. I teach screen printing classes as well, and I tell people it's about 3 years to really become a good screen printer. My experience with DTG is you can become a really, really good direct-to-garment printer in 90 days or less.
Okay, good deal. Folks, I'm sorry, we have more questions coming in. As I said, Terry and Matthew Rome will be able to address those to you directly after the presentation, but right now we're kind of getting up against it, so we're out of time. Thank you, Terry Combs, for an excellent walkthrough on the D2G process and the Epson F2000. Thank you all for attending. Hope it was valuable for you. At the end, don't forget to rate this and let us know honestly how we did, especially if you have 5 stars for us. That'd be great. This webinar will be recorded as an event that will be available on the NBM webinar channel shortly after today's broadcast is complete. Printware is the producer of today's event. Get that in there. That's a fresh issue. It's coming to your mailbox, watching for it. Of course, you can find Printware in print, online at printwaremag.com, and in person at the NBM show, and there's been several people asking if Terry is this good looking in person. There's only one way to find that out. The NBM show next month, August, in Secaucus, New Jersey at the Meadowlands. Come and show up, and I'll tell you, he's stunning.
And we will all be there from Epson.
Hey, thanks, guys. And if anybody wants to give us a call at Equipment Zone, it's 800-408-0040 or sales@equipmentzone.com. And whether you're listening to this live or you're listening to it in the archive, mention the Printware webcast and for a special offer from Equipment Zone.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Terry. So that's it. Thank you, Epson. Thank you, Equipment Zone. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Tony. For Terry Combs in Arizona and me, Dave Pomeroy here in Colorado, thank you very much, and we hope to see you again soon.